Most people assume diagnosing dementia is simple. You go to the doctor, they run a test, and you get an answer. No. The truth is, diagnosing dementia isn't one single test at all. It's actually a process that involves several different steps. So today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how doctors diagnose dementia and what each step means. Hi, for those of you who are new here, my name is Dr. Sinclair. I'm a neuropsychologist, dementia care specialist, and founder of the Confident Caregiver Academy. Let's jump on in. Step 1, recognizing cognitive changes. Most dementia evaluations begin the same way. A family member or patient notices changes in thinking, memory, or behavior. Common early signs include repeating questions, forgetting recent conversations, difficulty managing finances, getting lost in familiar places, or changes in personality, mood, or judgment, how someone makes decisions. Sometimes these changes are subtle and other times they are obvious, but when these changes begin to interfere with one's daily life, that's often when doctors are called in to evaluate to see if dementia is present. Step 2, medical evaluation and blood work. The first step in a formal dementia evaluation is usually a medical assessment. This is where a physician will review things like your medical history, medications, sleep patterns, mood symptoms, past illnesses, and a family history of dementia. Blood work is also commonly ordered at this stage because some of these tests are used to rule out medical conditions that can mimic dementia. So things like infections or vitamin B12 or thiamine deficiencies, thyroid disorders, and other metabolic changes. Blood work is an important step, care partners, so don't skip this because some of these conditions that I've just listed can cause confusion and memory problems, so they mimic dementia, but unlike dementia, these situations are often reversible. Blood tests are also beginning to play a new role, and it's very exciting. In recent years, researchers have developed new blood-based biomarkers that can detect proteins associated with certain types of neurodegenerative diseases. For example, in Alzheimer's disease, doctors are increasingly able to measure proteins called amyloid and tau proteins in the blood. These proteins accumulate in the brains of Alzheimer's dementia, and changes in their levels can provide clues about whether or not this individual has Alzheimer's. Research are also studying other blood markers that reflect brain cell injury. One example here is a protein called neurofilament light chain. Elevated levels of this protein can be seen in several neurological conditions and are particularly studied right now with frontotemporal dementia, where changes in behavior and personality are often the earliest symptoms. A bit of a disclaimer here, care partners. These tests are new and still evolving and are not used in every clinical setting just yet. But they do represent exciting developments in the field. And the hope is over time, blood tests may help doctors identify different types of dementias earlier and with greater accuracy. We're getting there. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. Step 3, brief cognitive screening tests. These are short tests designed to evaluate things like memory, orientation, attention, language. Examples include the Mini Mental Status Exam or the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, the MoCA. These test care partners take about 10 to 15 minutes and provide a quick snapshot of how a brain is functioning. They are not enough to diagnose dementia on their own. They help doctors decide whether further evaluation is needed. They are simply a screening tool. Now, at this point, many families start wondering, can't doctors just scan the brain and immediately see if it's dementia? What's the holdup? And the answer, care partners, is not exactly. Brain scans can be incredibly helpful, but they don't always work in the way that you imagine. Let me explain the purpose of imaging. Step 4, brain imaging. Brain imaging usually involves MRI scans or CT scans. Brain imaging helps doctors look for structural changes that may explain symptoms. So how is the structure of the brain? Is there evidence of a stroke? Is there a tumor? Is there hydrocephalus, which means that there's a buildup of fluid in parts of the brain? Is there patterns of brain atrophy, which means is there patterns of shrinkage in any parts of the brain? For example, if we're looking at Alzheimer's disease, we may look for shrinkage in the hippocampus because the hippocampus is responsible for memory. Quick pause, care partners. If this is helpful and you're learning something new today, please go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel. That small action tells YouTube that this information is valuable for caregivers, and it helps other families out there just like you find the support they need. Thank you. Now let's move on to the next step in diagnosing dementia. Step 5, spinal tap. In some cases, doctors may recommend a test called a lumbar puncture, also known as a spinal tap. This test involves collecting a small sample of the fluid that surrounds the brain and the spinal cord. That fluid is called cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF. Cerebrospinal fluid, care partners, contains proteins and other markers that can give doctors important clues about what's happening in the brain. For example, if we are looking for Alzheimer's disease, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to look for that amyloid and tau buildup in the CSF. By measuring those proteins in the spinal fluid, doctors can sometimes gain stronger evidence about whether or not Alzheimer's or a different type of dementia is present. A spinal tap can also help rule out other neurological conditions, including infections, including inflammatory disorders, or certain autoimmune conditions. Now, not every patient undergoing a dementia evaluation will need this test, but in situations where the diagnosis is unclear or when doctors want to be a bit more precise, they may go ahead and recommend a lumbar puncture. And while the idea of a spinal tap can sound intimidating, it is a procedure that neurologists perform often, routinely, and it is generally considered safe. Okay, after the blood work and the brain scans, there's still one critical question doctors need to answer. How well is the brain actually functioning day to day? Because two people can have similar brain scans and function very differently in real life. That's where a detailed evaluation comes in, known as a neuropsychological evaluation. Step 6, neuropsychological or neurocognitive evaluations. This is where specialists like myself come in. Neuropsychological testing involves a detailed evaluation of how the brain is functioning. We use assessments, and these assessments often take a few hours to complete, and we examine many different cognitive systems of the brain, including memory, attention, language, processing speed, reasoning abilities, visual spatial skills, etc. Each of these abilities relies on different brain networks, and the pattern that emerges from the testing data tells us which brain systems remain strong or weak. So examining the patterns of information allows us to also determine which dementia is present. Why patterns matter? Well, memory loss that follows a certain pattern may suggest Alzheimer's disease or another dementia type. Difficulty with visual processing and attention that follows a certain pattern may raise concern for Lewy body dementia. Changes in behavior and personality may suggest frontotemporal dementia. So neuropsychologists are not just asking how is the memory or how is one's processing speed. We are asking which brain systems are changing, how is it changing, and how bad is the change. Step 7, monitoring over time. Because this can occur from time to time, I do want to warn you. Even after all of those tests, the blood work, the imaging, the neuropsychological, neurocognitive testing, your person being evaluated may still fall in a gray area. One test said this, another test implicates this. And so when that happens, that's when doctors often recommend, let's wait. Because dementia is progressive, the pattern of changes become more clear as time passes. So some doctors may say, let's hold off on giving a formal diagnosis. Let's wait 12 to 18 months. Let's repeat neurocognitive testing, or let's repeat imaging, and let's see if it becomes more clear which dementia type this is. I hope today's video, care partners, gave you clarity about diagnosing dementia. It is not just a single test. It's based on a pattern of evidence gathered through medical history, lab testing, brain imaging, neurocognitive assessments, and maybe even observation over time. Understanding that process can help you feel more prepared going in, as well as it can help you better advocate to ensure that everyone's dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's before calling this dementia. In the next video, we'll talk more about something many care partners struggle with once a diagnosis is made, and that's how do you communicate with someone with dementia. So if you two are butting heads more frequently, then go ahead and check out the next video and grab your free dementia starter kit below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.